This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Shirts for the Scene. Head over to the popkoproject.com and you can purchase your favorite band tee. It is no secret that 2020 has sucked a big fat one, right? Artists and musicians have had to cancel almost all of the shows, which has really hurt them financially. Grab a shirt, support a band. The proceeds of each sale go right to the bands whose shirt you are buying. Once again, head over to the popkoproject.com and grab your shirt today. Shirts for the Scene is made possible by Axelrad Screen Printing. Visit them at axelradarmy.com. My guest today is one of the founders of the Pittston Ketchup Company in Pittston, Pennsylvania. We talk about how the company got its name, the process of starting a business, why Pittston, what the future holds for the company, and how they'd like to have a positive impact on Northeastern Pennsylvania outside of just making ketchup. Welcome to the show, Amos Valenti. So yeah, man, what's going on? Happy holidays.
Yeah, just got done with Christmas, feeling pretty good. It's fire season. We have a fireplace, so I love burning fires in the house. That's probably one of my favorite things to do in the winter,
Yeah, man. When I was younger, we had a fireplace at my parents' house. And what I didn't like about it was I had to go out with my dad and cut down trees in the woods and then load the truck, bring it home, unload the truck, split it, and then stack it.
The wood I'm burning now, it's actually a tree that we did cut down when we bought our house. We had to. It was dying. We didn't want to, but turned out to be some beautiful wood. But for the most part, I go full America. I just buy it already split. I don't go and chop them down. Although I do like to cut trees down in the right format,
Sure.
So that's pretty much it, and then other than Christmas, we make raviolis. That's our thing. We usually do it with my whole family. We brought my nephew over, but we didn't have my parents, my brother there, or the whole gang this year. But it was still great. We still made a ton of ravioli and ate them up. So that's pretty much all I've been doing. Eating raviolis, burning fires. I was enjoying the snow.
Yeah, it was kind of sad that we didn't have a white Christmas. I don't know where you are, but
I'm in 40 for it. So, there were some flurries. So I don't know what actually qualifies for a white Christmas. Does it need to snow? Like specifically on Christmas? I think we had a white Christmas a few years ago where it actually snowed on Christmas, but.
Well, I thought for sure with that snowstorm, I'm like, oh, we have a foot of snow out there. We'll be good for Christmas. And then it decided to warm up and rain.
Yeah. Hopefully all the skiers got their 4 or 5 runs in for the year, because that's probably it. I mean, I don't know what the ski slopes look like. I don't ski. I have skis. I've gone before. And, all my friends ski, so they're so excited for this. And then that was it. Like you said, 50 and raining now. So
yeah. I mean, I'm not a big fan of winter in general or the cold. So, I mean, this is okay for me.
I love it.
Do you?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just love it.
Yeah. Well, so is your partner joining or is it just you?
No, it's just going to be me tonight. There's actually 3 of us. Well, really 4 of us, but 3 of us that make up the actual core of, say Pittston Ketchup. But there's 4 of us basically who do the cooking, all the manufacturing process and stuff like that. And Erin, actually, she designed our logo, our first logo and stuff. She's a creative director. She works up at Penn Foster. So it's kind of in her purview,
Sure.
So we have, there's a whole group of us. We have someone who does our social media for us, Ange Greco.
You're answering all my questions that I had to ask you.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty much it, man. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. So, I mean, I started this podcast. I mean, a little background on me for you. Obviously, this just shows about you and what you have going on. But this is the first time we've ever actually corresponded.
It's funny, too, because we're all in, there's like, the Willamette Valley circles. And a lot of our circles overlap. We know a lot of the same people in different ways, and I've known you since you were at the Weekender when it was like, at least, I've known of your name and knew of you as a person around here, since the Weekender was the Weekender, when we were 21,
Right.
you know what I mean? When it was a lot bigger and there's a lot more bands and a lot more bars and different things going on like that. So
yeah, before
I'm
social
surprised
media.
we've never met. Yeah. In real life.
Yeah. Well, I mean, then I won't get into my background since you know it already, but
No, I know that, but that was it. You only know what you know of a person as you see them, and it was like a small little picture, where you would just see your head, basically in that thing there, and a couple other things, but that was it. So I always knew that you were involved in music and local music and things like that, into that scene and stuff. And I know a lot of guys, local musicians, as it were. In the area and stuff like that. And my tie-in was the restaurants. I've always worked in restaurants, and the Weekender, you had the music, but it was always at a venue of some sort, so it kind of like tied in food service, so I would see a lot of these guys, after they were playing or whatever, so that was kind of like my tie into the Weekender, at least, like being on the restaurant side, so yeah, it was cool,
So as far as restaurants go, what is your background here in northeastern Pennsylvania?
Well, it was funny. I started actually at Denty's Catering in Pittston when I was 14, busting tables and stuff like that. And I actually learned a good deal there, just in the mise en place, right? Just about setting stuff up and, being prepared and washing dishes and like the real grunt work of it, when you're 14, they make you do all the worst stuff.
Yeah.
And then I worked at the Wesley Village in the dietary kitchen for a couple of years, through high school and stuff like that. And then when I got out of high school, I got a job at TGI Fridays. And that was like the job that totally changed restaurants for me, as far as just being like, something, and because it was completely different than anything I was ever used to. I went to a small school for high school and grade school, so I never really knew anyone other than people who were just like myself, like regular people for the area, for Pittston. So that means just like regular white guys, just like me, which is all well and good. And then here I was working at Fridays next to, guys on work release, next to drag queens, next to gay people. I didn't know any gay people. It was like this, microcosm of people in an area, and they all existed in this one place at TGI Fridays. And I was like ready for it. I was ready to, and it was great. It totally changed. It changed how I looked at restaurants. And then from there, I worked at the Arena Bar and Grill for a tiny portion when they had their original location where Emerald's used to be, by Pet Supplies Plus in Wilkes-Barre.
Oh yeah. That was a great.
There was a
spot.
place there. It was like some other like club afterwards, and it was like two clubs, and it burned down, I think.
Yeah, it was Chicken Coop after, I think, and then
okay.
Yeah, some kind of nightclub. I forget what it was called though. Yeah, and then it burned down.
Yeah, and then it burned down. And then I worked at Kazimi's. I don't know if you remember Kazimi's, where Alante's used to be.
Yeah.
Jalpia's was where Kevin's is currently.
Right.
So stuff like that. So I've always worked in restaurants and food service in some capacity. So that's what I did in the area here.
Oh, cool.
And construction. I always did construction and stuff. It's like it's crazy. So I'm just surprised we never met. It's being such of a small place. It's like where did you grow up?
Well, I grew up in Humlock Creek, which I went to school at Lake Lehman. And then when I finished high school, I went to King's College and I moved out into an apartment in Kingston.
Nice.
And then I lived in Wilkes-Barre, and then back to the Kingston area. And then now I'm in Duryea, which is kind of why I wanted to reach out to you, not only because I'm doing this, but also because you're kind of a big part of, Duryea is close to Pittston. So I was kind of like, you know what? I would love to talk to those guys and see how how it all started. You know, I really, and I've been in sales for, man, like 13 years now. So I'm like just genuinely curious. I like to learn people's stories, and I would love to learn more about yours. So, you know, obviously you're from here, I guess, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Um,
Yeah, I grew up in Pittston, and it kind of all started. We actually, like, the idea Pittston Ketchup came from. We were out west, Aaron and I. Aaron is my wife, by the way. We got married in October 2020.
oh, really?
Yep.
Congrats.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
COVID wedding, huh?
At the 44 Meeting House. Yeah.
There you
Put a
go.
little plug in for the venue there. It's in the cemetery there. It's a really nice venue. But we were actually in Astoria, Oregon, where they filmed the Goonies. And we were at a restaurant and ordered some French fries, and the gal brought over some ketchup. And we tried the ketchup, and it was like nothing we ever had before. It was, I said, wow, what is this? It's really delicious. She said, oh, this is Portland ketchup. They make it in Portland, of course. Like, Portland has 4 ketchup companies, you know. So I just said it out loud. I said, the Pittston Ketchup Company. Just because everything out there, we went and visited friends in Seattle who lived in a small town called Ballard, which is basically in the city. It's like right outside the city. But everything was like, Ballard mattress shop, Ballard, wash your clothes place. Everything was like very name specific for the town. And each little town outside of the city has like their own really strong identity. And kind of like here, where it's like people from Pittston are from Pittston, people from Wilkes-Barre, they're from Wilkes-Barre. But even Wilkes-Barre is broken down into, are you from North Wilkes-Barre, are you from South Wilkes-Barre? Did you grow up over here, on the hill? I forget even what they call that, like up by Giants Despair, that whole area up there. Sorry, Wilkes-Barre people. But the idea is, it was like, I said, the Pittston Ketchup Company, and Aaron was like, oh my God. Because like, I'm an ideas man. So it'll be like every other day I'll say something completely ridiculous and say like, we should do this. And it's like, oh man, you got to slow down a little bit.
Yeah. So
I text Corey Golden, was the first guy, and we went to high school together. I just said the Pittston Ketchup Company. He's like, I'm in. So like, it didn't start out like something we were like, okay, we're going to try to do, we did market research. It wasn't like that. Like we, didn't look for a niche or didn't look for anything. We knew Pittston was we're the tomato quality capital of the world, right? So like, you need something. Every town needs something, and it would just be like, okay, let's make something fun from Pittston, tomato based, that isn't pretentious. There's like a million sauces out, like tomato sauces and pizza sauces and stuff like that out there, which is fine. But, like we said, okay, let's just make, something fun, Pittston related, so obviously we have to go with tomatoes. So, that's kind of where everything comes. So it didn't come from like a sales perspective or a market perspective or anything else other than just like the curiosity of making something in our town. And that was kind of it, like as far as the business itself. So we just said like, okay, let's try it. Okay, what do you have to do then? So there's like, you have to basically think about an item that you see in the store, and it's like, what do you have to do to make that a reality? There's a lot of steps involved, it turns out. So we just thought we would make it twice a year, something around the holidays, and it'd be a really fun novelty. And then we actually got into it and started making it. And we had a release. We were blown away by the response, really, just from the point that we were really expecting like an onslaught of just negativity. That's honestly what we thought would happen. Like, people would just be like, this is ridiculous. What are you guys thinking? And we would sell it twice a year, but then like people started buying it. People started reaching out to us. Restaurants started reaching out to us. Grocery stores started reaching out to us. And then it was like, okay, now we didn't really try to start a business, But now we had one all of a sudden, you know. It wasn't anything like, you know, it's not anything still crazy, but it was something that we weren't expecting to start a business in the traditional sense, where now you have to, you know, worry about sales and marketing and other things like that. Or they become factors, you know. So it was pretty neat, you know, as far as that went.
It's really cool. I mean, this area in general, I think they love to be part of something. So when you put out the Pittston Ketchup Company, I mean, people are proud to be, you know, from this area for the most part. I mean, there are definitely instances where, you know, you look on the news and you're like, oh man, like
Yeah,
these people exist here, but I'm pretty sure they probably exist everywhere. But I mean, people are like really pumped to, like, you know, be part of something and call it their own. So I'm not surprised at all that, you know, launching the Pittston Ketchup Company was a big hit.
Well, you know, I don't know. Like we expected negativity just because, you know, that's what we're used to. But I guess I'm of the same mindset, you know, like if you're not going to, you know, you don't have to start a business or do something remarkable or try to do something or anything. If you're just a regular person, right? But if you're a type of person who's putting something down without trying to do anything better, like the area really comes to mind. A lot of people are, you know, oh, this area sucks or whatever. And it's like, okay, so then what are you doing to try to make it any better? Or, you know, or do you just go around and tell people that it's a terrible place to be, you know? So if you're not going to do something better, then it's like, just shut up, you know? Or if you're not going to do something or just be a regular person, to just kind of keep your mouth shut, you know?
Yeah. My screen just went away. There we go.
Yeah, that happens to this one too.
My wife has so much stuff on here, like for her work, and it just disappeared. So I apologize.
It's fine.
But yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, it's constantly with the negativity, and it's like, what are you doing to make things better? And they just rather sit home on the couch and call Talkback 16 and which is my favorite part of the news.
It's a lot easier, man, because it makes people feel better about their own failures or their own times where they've tried. It's a lot easier to take somebody down than to say, man, way to go, or that's awesome, or whatever. So we were just really happy with the response of it and stuff like that, you know. So it was like, now we have a business on our hands, guys, you know, like let's you know, we have to do it the right way, you know. That was basically it. We had to do it the right way.
And you mentioned there's a lot of steps involved to get to, you know, where you are today. What are some of those steps?
Well, so just the production of a food product in general. So we just sort of find out basically from Pennsylvania what we had to do. So it was a lot of research, you know. So what do you have to do to make a tomato-based sauce, whatever it is, you know? So we started at the state, you know. We started out what we had to do to make it safe was the biggest thing. Like, we didn't want to put anything out there that was going to get somebody sick, or, you know, like that was our number one priority in selling this to the public, was like, we don't want to get anybody sick. So it turns out tomato-based products in themselves, tomatoes are acidic. So the acid helps basically kill off any kind of bacteria that would really get you sick. Although there still is the risk, you know, if something was to go, go wrong. So you have to make sure first that you're not going to get people sick. So it was like, we had to find out what the FDA's regulations were. And since we don't have, our pH is low, it's a lot of it is like dry kind of scientific stuff that I kind of had a background in some of it. But a lot of it I didn't, you know, so we had to learn the parts that, you know, we didn't, like packaging, right? Like, we had to find bottles. No one wants to deal with a guy who wants to buy 750 bottles. You know what I mean? Yeah. They want to sell you a truckload of bottles. They don't care how cute you are. They're like, listen, we want to sell you 1 million bottles, guy. So you need to find a supplier who wants to deal with you like that. And then the cap. You know, the flip top cap, you know, the little tinfoil seal that you have to peel off. That's called induction sealing. You know, labeling, what you have to put on the label, what what you're required to put on the label and what you can say. Then we learned about food labeling, and it's just like, it's the Wild West, basically. It's like, I'm not going to say that you could say whatever you want, but you could basically say whatever you want. Like there's really no, basically there's a lot of liberty what you could say on the like the word local when it comes to food, right? Like, what is local? Like, some people will consider New Jersey local. It's 2 hours away,
Right.
And that would be considered a local market if you're considered for something. But if you're considered local, is it like Pittston versus 44? Like, how local does it need to be before it isn't local?
Right.
How homemade does it need to be before it's not homemade? So just like all of those things, there was like so many little bits of information. And then you have the whole business side of it, right? The accounting and the cost, how you have to like put a cost to it, figure out how much it costs, taxes, insurances, stuff like that. Now, I'm the business guy. Okay. So I'm like the guy who, I'm the business guy, and I'm not the numbers guy. Corey's the numbers guy. AJ Sanguinolfi is our other core partner. He's our logistics man and production and stuff like that. We all do the production together. And Chris Carmody is our other fourth man. Chris helps in production and stuff like that too. So, there's really a lot of us. It's not just me who does it by any stretch of the imagination. Like, I had the idea, but if it was just all ideas, man, like me, like, we never would have done it.
Right.
We wouldn't even got one bottle made if it was just all up to me, to be totally honest with you.
Well, that's why people, specialize in those different sectors, right?
That's exactly right. So, and being a business guy, I know that, like, you need the people to complement your areas where you're not good at. It's just, I'm not a numbers guy. I couldn't figure that stuff out. So there was a lot of things like to do just to try to do something, but that was part of it. We wanted to do it also to be able to show people that you can do it. You hear a lot like, oh man, you can't start a business because of X, Y, and Z. It's like, well, you can, Yeah,
they don't make it easy for you, but you can do it.
Yeah, I mean, there was no one who really made it hard for us, except for the just the access to the information.
Right.
Where to search for it. Like, how would you even start? Searching for it. Like, the bottles that we use a method of filling our bottles. It's called hot filling. So we fill over 185 degrees. The ketchup is actually over 185 degrees when it goes into the bottle. So it essentially does two things. It kind of pasteurizes. It comes up to that temperature, past it, in fact. And it sanitizes the enclosure. So, like, I mean, they're clean. They come from an environment where they're on a manufacturing line, packaged and sealed, and then we're putting ketchup in them. So it's not like there's it's not like they're just sitting on a rack somewhere. But the hot fill method does that. So there's just different kinds of plastic that are suitable for hot fill and certain that aren't. So, like, how would you even know that?
Right.
So, like, until you find all these little pieces, they're all out there separately. So that was the hardest part, finding the information. And then I just happen to be lucky that my wife is a really good designer and has access to all those people and understands that and is able to help us with the website and help us with she understands marketing. I went to Penn State, did the business with the marketing management option. And, so, like, I knew the 4 Ps when they were popular in the 2000s, but, when the internet changed all that,
Right.
as far as like social media and stuff like that, so there was a lot of other things that we already had a leg up on, going into this too, so yeah, there was no, I think, agency or anything that was really making it hard for us, other than the fact that, like, the information out there it's out there, but it's scattered and there's a lot of it. So you have to wade through a lot of it. It's like, going on YouTube and typing in how to tune a violin. There's a lot of videos out there. Some of them are good and some of them are bad. So, unfortunately that was the same thing. But that was another reason why we started doing this too, is now if some person was to come to me tomorrow and say, well, Amos, my granddad's sauce is really great and I want to put it in a jar, I could literally tell them how to spend their first dollar.
Right.
And offer them a solution that is 100% from beginning to end. We could take you through every single step of the process. And there's not one place in America that will do that for you right now, that will take you through every step. Like you could go and get a label made from a guy but you're still gonna have to deal with, all of those different people and through all of those different steps. So that was some of the loftier kind of ideas that we were thinking about as a business inside of just, let's make a ketchup company. So it goes like way, like the way beyond just ketchup,
right.
It was not, since we never intended to do that. It's all these other ideas. Like we thought of like, okay, well if we did that, then we could do these things, and help other people along the way if they want to do that or something like that, So we thought about maybe doing manufacturing, helping people out with that. Like we have the equipment now to jar, put stuff into bottles basically.
Yeah.
So
that was my next question. I mean, as far as initially when you started, it was, let's do this twice a year. I mean, what kind of facility did you have at that point? And, has it gone from that to a different size facility, or are you kind of in the same space?
So yeah, we're in the same space. So also in this area too, we use the Carbondale Technology Transfer Center, which is an incubator kitchen. The incubator space, in Wilkes-Barre, we've had the development center and a couple other incubator type things. But they're more centered around tech and things like that. Where the one in Carbondale it has a kitchen, an industrial kitchen, and it has light manufacturing space and stuff like that. So it's more centered around production of hard goods and services too. There's some tech services up there and stuff like that. But it's, there's a guy who makes guitar strings. There's a guy who makes cutting boards. There's a guy who brews beer. There's a spice guy. There's a cookie lady. There's a meal home delivery service, so there's like a lot of different businesses exist in that same space. And it's a great resource, so it's for rent. So we rent it out by the hour, the kitchen, and we bought our own specific equipment, like a filling machine that allows us to be able to fill the bottles. Once the ketchup is in the, it never touches our hand. It goes from the containers into the cooking vessel, from the cooking vessel into the bottles, So that allowed us to, we didn't have to invest in a commercial kitchen. Like a lot of that stuff wouldn't have been possible, We tried using a restaurant, like, I got buddies at, restaurants and stuff like that. You try to like get in there on a Sunday or something like that, but it doesn't work out, like you need some space, like right. Whether, you could have an arrangement with somebody and if it works and you could come up with a schedule and that's fine. And, there probably are people who do that, but we were not able to do that. It just didn't work. And it was a lot easier just to have, hey, we rent this space for these hours versus like, hey, can we get in on Sunday? Like, right, it was just like, it was a much better arrangement. So having that, the Carbondale Technology Transfer Center was a great resource. And we're still currently there until we go to the next step, which would be to have somebody actually do the manufacturing for us. So right now we do our manufacturing and our distribution. So we still are 100% vertically integrated. It's a dirty rock thing. I was thinking about Jack Donaghy. I guess the show's been off the air for a lot of years now.
Yeah.
But,
so is this your full-time gig then, or
no, it is not.
So it's like a hobby.
Yeah, no, not even a hobby. Like it's an actual business. It's self-sustaining, and
Right.
it's able to pay for itself 100%, and so there's no cost of us coming out of it, and we're able to, since we all work full time. Corey actually owns his own financial wealth management company over in Wilkes-Barre. Chris works at the Willamette Valley Sewer Authority, and AJ is a teacher at Pittston area. And full time, I work as a project manager and estimator for a commercial flooring company.
Oh, cool.
So, yeah, but honestly, if we had to be paying our cell phone bills and Corey's 4 kids' tuition with the ketchup company, it definitely, we don't depend on it for our regular income, so it's not something that, because, just what it wasn't, especially at that scale, it's too hard. You've been in sales, our product costs $4.50, our product costs $3.99. Like, you know how many bottles of ketchup you'd have to sell to be a millionaire? People will say it to me all the time. They're like, "Oh, Amos, we saw you in Wegmans. Like, you must be getting ready to retire now." It's like, no, guy, you got to realize how many, it's a numbers game at this point. So that's why we to go to this next level, we have to have somebody start producing it for us.
Right.
Just because there's no way to do it, because we don't want to do it for the next 10 years every Saturday for the rest of our lives. That's not what we try to do. That was never the intention for it. So in order for us to grow, get into more stores, we need somebody to, take the production off our hands,
Yeah, talk a little bit about that, the fact that you're in those stores. What's the process of that like? Because people see that and like, oh man, these guys are legit. They're not just like, a couple,
we've moved past, and I don't want to even say it, but we've moved past the circuit where we're selling it directly in front of people. Like, we have behind us, it's here, and we're standing there selling it. We moved past that point, because it was, we didn't want to do that. We didn't want to get into the circuit and start going to events and selling things like that. It was fun. We did a couple of them in the beginning, but we knew right away, if it's going to be a real business in the terms that it could provide jobs for people, then it needs to be something that we had to grow in a way where we were able to manage the growth, and we were able to get into grocery stores. Retail, it's all well and good to be at some restaurants, some really nice restaurants, and we're a half dozen really nice restaurants. But when the restaurants are ordering, they're not, because we still do the distribution ourselves, they don't order their seafood and then their paper supplies and sundries and then their meat and then their ketchup. They order all of that stuff at one shot from, Maine's or whoever they're dealing with, or maybe 2 or 3 purveyors. So until we get with a shifts or something like that, food service was not our goal. So to get into grocery stores, basically, Wegmans approached us, which was the really, really cool thing, because Wegmans is an amazing store. Let's face it.
Yeah.
Everywhere. It's not we just have one in Wilkes-Barre and we think it's good. It's no, everywhere that they have a Wegmans, everyone's Wegmans is awesome.
Right.
So when they actually approached us at one of those fairs where we were selling to people, it was a crazy time. We were actually we were up in Scranton at the holiday show, and just the way that it happened was too crazy. I just realized if I try to tell it now, it just wouldn't sound that awesome, and I would sound like I was a jerk. But so I'm not going to.
Okay.
So that's how Wegmans approached us, and Garrity's. We kind of just asked them. We're Shields and Parsons Ave. We asked them, and for ketchup. So this was one thing that we didn't know going in. At every step of the way you go, from the craft fairs to the boutique retail shops, which was our first taste into retail. We went from doing these kind of in front of people sales to the Chick Chick Marketplace was the first awesome little retail place that picked us up, and they still have us. They're still our best champions. They are like really like we're the ones that was like, hey, we're going to pick this up and sell it. And it was great. And it still sells there really well. And the chicks are great. And then we got into a couple other small retail places like that. So that's kind of like where we saw the path to grocery stores, you know, from like standing in front of people to getting in front of grocery stores. And at every step of the process, you know, you lose a little bit of control. So when we got into grocery stores, we didn't know it's not competitive. It's not a competitive place to be in the ketchup aisle. Like there's Heinz, right? That's it. You got Hunt's, right, French's, a couple other sub brands, the store brand. Then you got the Value Time all the way down the bottom. And, but so it's not competitive or like chips, you know, you try to get into the chip aisle, like they'll laugh you right out of the store, you know, because it's super competitive and the margins are really tight. The bread aisle, jelly, milk, ice cream, candy, cookies, pickles, barbecue sauce, a hot sauce, mustard. You go to Garrity's, there's 25 different brands of mustard. That's not even varieties, man. That's brands. There's literally 4 brands of ketchup. So for these guys to give us a little bit of space, they didn't charge us any money for us. Like where in, you know, you go to a, you know, with the yogurt or something like that, it's competitive and they're going to want to charge you for that space because it's valuable to them. So for the restaurants or for the grocery stores, it was, it didn't really matter, you know? So, you know, so that's kind of like, we had that going for us. So that was one of those things that we didn't know going into this, you know, we didn't do market research to find that out. You know, it was like a little happy accident that happened in the way, you know?
I love that too, because I went to school for marketing and all that kind of stuff. And it just, the market research and all these, it just sounds like a big pain in the butt.
I mean, listen, and all that stuff costs money and time, you know, if you're going to do it right. And it's like, you know, we wouldn't have, you know, there's not one market research firm in the world that would probably tell you to open up a ketchup company. Right. But like, there's definitely a good dozen ketchup companies out there, like smaller ketchup companies. One of the most successful ones actually got picked up by Unilever, which owns Hellmann's. You know, it was over $1 billion deal. It was crazy. And these guys were a ketchup company in New York that, you know, was basically venture capital, you know, had a bunch of guys, raised a bunch of money, hiring all over the country. All of a sudden, Unilever picked them up, you know. You know, so there's a lot of money in the food space that exists out there. You know, it's a huge, huge, huge industry that, you know, and there's a ton of huge players and there's a ton of mid-level players in there that have real big dollars to spend, you know, and it's, so they're out there. There's other companies like that, you know, and I think that it's just, it also reflects how people are spending and buying now, whether they are, you know, interested in what's in the ingredients now. People are more conscious of where the food's coming from, what's in it, who's making it, what's the impact of it, you know. So all of those things, you know, people are looking to identify, like you said earlier. People look to identify with things now in general. You know, your toaster used to just make toast. Now it makes your life easier. Yeah. You know, so it's you know, it's gone past utility to something else. So there's room for a small ketchup company from Pittston all of a sudden, you know?
Yeah. And what would you say makes your ketchup stand out from others?
I mean, as far as the flavor profile goes, it's a lot more, I like to call it realistic. It's a real food product. You know, it behaves like real food. At room temperature, it's a little thinner. When you put it into the refrigerator, it thickens up. Kind of like your tomato sauce that you make on a Sunday. So it has more real tomato flavor, and it has the balance of it, because of the way that we cook it, We cook it in an open kettle, which allows the steam to evaporate and really develop the sugar in the tomatoes. So since tomatoes are naturally sweet, and cooking them in an open kettle allows us to draw out more of that sweetness, we don't have to add in as much vinegar. And as a result, we don't have to add in as much actual sugar. So in addition to there being, low sodium and a low sugar product, we also have a little bit of cayenne pepper. So kind of just the tiniest little bit of tang in there. Not enough to call it spicy. That's a whole thing. Like we actually have a spicy ketchup. You can't call it spicy if it doesn't completely melt your face, because if you call it spicy and somebody eats spicy food and he's like, this isn't spicy. I'm like, all right, guy, I get it. Like, whether it's spicy or not, like, but my dad's like, oh, too spicy for me. So for some people, kids, we noticed kids, like certain kids will be like, it's amazing watching kids try something because they haven't figured out how to lie as well as we have, like instantly. Right. It's like you see their face right away and like whether it's true or not.
Right.
And we find a lot of kids like it, because it is still sweet, so there's less vinegar. So it allows it to also be more versatile too. So you could use it in ways that you wouldn't really use ketchup before because of all the vinegar that ketchup has. So it really cuts through in recipes. That's why a lot of chefs, it doesn't get a lot of credit. But think about the food or the item. There are not many items that have been so commercially successful that have so many different flavor profiles. There's sweet and there's salty. There's the tang from the vinegar. There's the heat from the cayenne. There's allspice and nutmeg, really savory kind of flavors. And then, you have the umami for the fancy cook guys, who are really into it. That's a thing. So there are not many foods that have that many different things going on that are that successful, because ketchup, as we know it, has become a commodity product where it's, dumped onto the most unhealthy foods. It's not associated with like a super, fit lifestyle. It's not like there's ketchup models and I don't know, so that's kind of what makes it different, and then our story, we can't pretend that's not a part of it. The story, how we present it, the way our bottle looks, our label and stuff like that. Like it all tells a story, and that's actually, we just redesigned our label.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, we just redesigned our label. Totally new look. Some of that was to accommodate the upcoming change to a larger production, to increase our production capacities, just in working with a co-packer. Co-packer, somebody who will make you product for you, which is a whole other world in itself too. It's like a crazy ordeal, just learning about these things, So we're prepared now to make some of those changes, so and that's part of it. That's what makes it different. It all ties in together. Somebody could identify it with it in more than one way. They could be really into food. They could really like the taste of it. They could like the way that it looks. That's where we're at.
Now, is that out yet? The new label?
It's not out yet. No, because we're still working on a couple of details on the top label. I'm kind of looking for a bottle here. I should have had one, but I don't. Yeah, we're working on a few more parts of it. So we didn't want to release it just yet too. We wanted to be 100% ready with it, because like we didn't have the luxury of like being able to, because we're in stores, like it's already the way that it is, as far as the nutrition label and stuff like that. So we didn't have the luxury of basically having, to introduce it. Now we have to introduce it as the line's already running. So, we have to do some more marketing and stuff like that. But it's also going to allow us to come out with our spicy version. And it's kind of like, it's Corey likes to say that, like, Lay's potato chips they have 100 different flavors, every summer because they want people just to buy them. Like,
right.
They're still going to have the regular ones, but like that's part of it is to kind of refreshing it. You know what I mean? Get people out there, get it used to, and then to broaden our appeal a little bit past just being a very, very centric to the area, northeastern Pennsylvania. We want to tie, because it really is about the whole area. It wasn't really just about Pittston. When you look into the lore of how Pittston became the tomato quality capital of the world, it was more than just that. So in trying to get to some of these other markets, we have to kind of broaden our appeal a little bit. So we had to redesign certain elements of our label to kind of reflect that.
I'm excited for that too, because I think what you're saying too is there's not a lot of ketchups, right, that are on the shelf. And I'm the type of guy, this is just me, I don't know how other people work, but I'm not really loyal to a lot of different things as far as what I use, whether it's ketchup or even beer, even shower items like body wash.
Sure.
I kind of look at packaging and that looks cool, and then that might prompt me to look into them more about their story and kind of get a connection to them that way. So I think what you're saying is you're having a cool logo and kind of making sure that that's on point is neat.
Yeah, we're actually with this one we worked with a local artist too to do our lettering for us. To really be really unique now and really custom and represent more of the feeling that we wanted to kind of have from the beginning. And it just represents more, I think, of what we were trying to go for, with the original styling of it and stuff like that. Really feel like we pulled it off more. And then now, having a truly unique hand-drawn font now kind of definitely helps us be really unique now, as far as somebody seeing it, because it's not something you could see somewhere. It's hand drawn, it's one of a kind now.
Right.
So yeah, we're excited for it. We really are, and that took a while, working back and forth with them, just going, changing small little details and stuff. It was fun though. It really was.
Yeah, I'm sure it's a pretty cool process to be a part of.
For sure, man. It was.
Now, when did you guys start?
2016.
And
we got
that
our first bottle out there was 2015. It took a whole year of research. All this stuff we were kind of like, I was running on about earlier about all the other stuff. That whole process took a year. So we didn't actually get our first bottles out there until 2016.
And how many bottles did you do that year?
Let's see. We made 750 bottles to start. And then we bought an additional 1,500 or 2,000 bottles or something like that.
Okay.
And then we just went on from there. And then it was like we did 1 year of sales, like direct sales, and then in year 2 we got into boutique retail, as we would call it, like Hillside Farms. We have it up there. Chick Marketplace, House of Nutrition in Luzerne, some small places like that. So we were still doing the craft sales, still doing the smaller boutique retail. And then our third year is when we got into the first store we got into was Shields. That was the first grocery store I talked to, because I knew there was 2 stores. They had the George Ave store and they had the main store, the Wilkes-Barre store, South Wilkes-Barre. So I'm going to go talk to these guys because they're a small grocery store, and so I went to the Wilkes-Barre store first, and the guy was like, "It's not going to sell, man." He said, maybe at the George Ave we'll carry it, but he's like, it's not going to sell over here. He's like, just the I wouldn't say the audience, but the demographics of the area and the neighborhood. It's just like there's a lot of older folks down there, fixed incomes and stuff like that, and they're used to buying what they're buying, and it's not going to sell. But he was like, yeah, we'll put you in George Ave though, so it was like crushing and awesome at the same time. So we're like, we got our first store, our first grocery store. And that was in our third year, So now it's just like, now we're in our fourth year, of actual, like, we have 2 years of grocery store sales behind us now. And it's gone really well at the stores. Like once we got into Garrity's, that was really big for us. We got into three or four stores they put us into, and they said, we'll see how it goes. And then if it's, starts selling well, we'll put you in the rest of them. And it was selling really well, sustained too. It wasn't like, it was like people came in the first week and bought it and they never bought it again. It was starting to sell, So like, okay, we'll put you in all the stores. And then we got to deal with Wegmans in that time frame in there and somewhere. And then, at the beginning of the year, I think it was like at the end of last year, I had a water around here somewhere. The end of last year, we had a meeting and we had a bunch of plans for this year to do. We were going to roll out our spicy. We had a fun collaboration with the brewery planned. We had, because when we kind of thought about our ketchup, we had a spicy. We have a sweet version, which I like to call the breakfast ketchup. We have an old world style tomato relish, a cocktail sauce. We worked on a Bloody Mary mix.
Oh, wow.
So we have a couple of the products out there. And this year we were gonna do a couple different things, but it just completely changed. All our plans changed this year, just in a way that, was something that, you couldn't prepare for, obviously. So we weren't able to do it. So we kind of like paused this year and then jump into it next year, or whenever, because a big part of our strategy in the stores is doing samplings, right? Talking to people about it. And it's unbelievable when we do the stores that we've done samplings at, like outsell the other stores that we haven't done samplings at 2 to 1,
Right.
And there's one Garrity's location that we have that's a similar demographic to the Shields in South Wilkes-Barre. And I completely understand now, because there's one location of Garrity's where it just doesn't really sell. It doesn't sell well.
Right.
Just because the demographics in the area, so it was really interesting.
And as far as the tastings go, is it just like a toothpick? How does that work?
So like some stores, if we have access and it's right, I'll make tater tots.
Okay.
I feel like that's a good thing. But my favorite way to taste it without, like we have little spoons. So some people will try it in a little spoon, and that's fine. But unsalted potato chips actually make the perfect ketchup tasting vehicle, because it gives you something to bite, and there's no salt
flavor
or anything to interfere.
Yeah.
It's kind of a neutral flavor, the potato in itself. So that's like kind of our favorite vehicle. But that's like when we have a lot of fun with it too. We talk to people, get out there. We don't just stand there. We kind of like we're interactive with people, and we like to chat them up. We like to because we're selling ketchup too, so it's like it's a fun product. It's not it's not something we're crazy. So excuse me. That's that's a big part of it though. 'Cause somebody tries it, they buy it. Because we don't have the luxury also of being in modern culture like Heinz. You know what I mean?
Right.
And people are very serious about ketchup too. Turns out, like there's the people out there that are like, Heinz or die guys. You know what I mean? They're like, you have like, sometimes you'll like ask somebody if they want a sample or something. And they're like, I wouldn't try it if you paid me. It's like, all right, bro. Like, it's cool. You don't have to try it. I'm not going to make you try it.
No, it's funny though. Like, Hunt's and compared to, Heinz, and people get in fights over that.
They do, but I'll tell you, Hunt's owns 30% of the market.
Really?
Yeah. And that's not a small amount of, it's like they're out there. The Hunt's fans are there. They're there.
And what is Heinz?
Oh, the rest.
The rest.
Yeah, basically. There's like, 10% of there's like a very small percentage that's like store brand, and then like we would be in like the 1% of ketchup, which is
Right.
like the Sir Kensingtons, the Hatchup ketchups of the world. Cleveland ketchup. Cleveland has their own ketchup, turns out. So we would be in that very, very small 1%. But it's a 1% that Heinz realizes is there, because Unilever, like I said earlier, bought Sir Kensington's, for over $1 billion. And they wouldn't have done that if they didn't realize what happened to the beer industry. It parallels, the big brewers laughed at the microbrewers for years and years and years, and so many years now, until they're like, now they're emulating them.
Yeah.
They're emulating them. They're buying them up.
Yep.
Trying to control, the production of hops in South America. It's like, and there's probably more stuff involved when you get to the supply of maybe cans and things like that. I know cans, aluminum cans for food, and the food production thing is a big deal right now. So I can only imagine that's even worse for brewers. But I think that food, big food, as it were, there's a lot of really big players. It's not an industry that was condensed like, say, beer was. There's like a few really huge whales out there, and it's just a bunch of other small independent guys, where there's a bunch of really big food players still out there, big guys and mid-sized guys, that just, it hasn't condensed yet the way that some other industries have,
Yeah. As far as marketing goes, I didn't get your name out there. Obviously, you said that you do the tastings, which obviously is very effective. Outside of that, how do you get the word out about your products?
Social media. We have social media, but I was always like, you have to have some kind of social media, because that's the new .com, or that's the new,
right.
That's the new way that you show your business to people. And you have to know how, I don't know. It was a tough way to go, at least because, we don't have like a budget as far as like, what we spend our budget on is like, we'll sponsor like the Pittston Stoners, buy their uniforms, or like $200 to this, drive for whatever, you know what I mean? Like, any money that we have that we give to something extra, we basically donate to like, those type things, like, or, kind of keep. So it's like just Facebook, Instagram. Instagram is probably the biggest one, because, I'm 100% aware that Facebook owns Instagram, but I hate Facebook. And I know it's really popular to hate Facebook right now. But let me go on the record to say I've hated it long before people hated it. I was basically the first guy to start hating it. And I was like, it was like resistant towards it, because I was like, I don't want to do it, because likes don't translate to buys, to sales, but they do a way of at least putting your brand out there, or getting it out there to people and stuff like that. We have a website, but how much ketchup have you bought on your life online? Like, do you buy your condiments usually online?
No.
No one does, like, other than like the guys who don't live here, people, we do sell a good amount of it online though, like this year, we sold more this year. Maybe, so our first year we sold a lot online, because that was the rush that everyone that wasn't from here tried it and bought it. And then we didn't sell as much the second and third year online as we did the first year. But this year we sold more than we sold the first year online. And I think it's just because people are home and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And they're spending their money in different ways than they were before, maybe. And in grocery stores too. Well, we're in grocery stores. So like there was a 2 weeks period there where there was like just us on the shelves, maybe us and like Fancy Time, because like some kind of production issue happened or a distribution issue happened where Heinz couldn't get there, or person who sells it. So it was a weird year, as far as that went in grocery stores first too. So, because we were in there and there was a lot of panic buying going on and stuff like that. So it was just a weird year to be in grocery stores too,
Yeah. Do you think you did better this year than previous years, or?
Yeah, I mean, I think because we were able to, we keep a little bit of stock. We don't keep too much stock. We keep enough so we could handle a big order. And for us, a big order would be like 30 cases. So, we try to keep like 50 to 60 cases in stock because we do deliveries every Friday and stuff like that. So we were able to work off some stock to have it. And we didn't get shut down as far as being where food production didn't get shut down.
Right.
But we had some stock to get us through like the first couple of months of like, of quarantine essentially, to be able to like, kind of get that out. And so I'd say this year worked out. We sold more this year in grocery stores than we sold last year just because of, I think, people buying it too, just being out there in the stores. And, people are home cooking more, that's kind of what it was all about. So from a sales perspective, it was like, probably was worked out well this year for us, but it's like weird. You have, I feel guilty about it. Not guilty, but like,
No, I know.
It's not like something where I'm, like you want to be like, yeah, we had a banner year in 2020, for sales, because I was like, it was the same reason why we just didn't do anything else, because it was like, Corey's got 4 kids, AJ's got kids, you know what I mean? It's like everyone's with their family and stuff like that. And there was, there's more important things in our lives going on than like trying to gin up some ketchup sales, you know what I mean? So like, it was just like, we just kind of let this year just do its thing, go by.
Yeah, it's interesting to see the different areas that did really well this year during a pandemic. Obviously, the beer distributors had great years.
Sure.
Pet food and pet supply companies had great years.
Oh yeah.
I work with a guy. He's a sports card like shop. He was over
sports
cards. Yeah.
Oh wow.
He was up 100% year over year. So it's just, I understand what you're saying when you kind of you feel guilty, but I mean, I guess who doesn't give a shit about being rich? Jeff Bezos doesn't give a shit.
No. He certainly doesn't.
So, I mean, take the wins where you can get them is what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, right. It's a thing. It's not something to be, I don't lament it, but it won't be on the bulletin, it won't be on the bulletin into the investors in 2021. But that's not, we don't have to worry about any of that stuff anyway. So.
Yeah. Well, so what's the future look like for Pittston Ketchup Company? We can kind of wrap things up from here.
Two of those things, I think we would like to, in 2021, we would like to have our spicy version out in the market so people could buy it. And some of the more lofty things would be to establish some of these other ways to help people start a business. So once you realize, like, you've done sales, the skills to be an effective salesperson could be translated into management or translated into some other field because of the skills that you acquired, whether they be dealing with people or maybe you're good with numbers or whatever it is, you could translate those into something else. So we would like to be able to help anyone who wants to start a business through any kind of, it doesn't have to be food related even at this point. It's like if somebody came to me with another idea for business, because we're able to navigate so many of these other parts of it, and starting a food related business, it's kind of the same as starting any other business. You just have to find out what you need to do first. So we want to be able to help people in a way. Maybe we could provide some jobs for people someday in the area, Maybe we could make our own manufacturing facility here. Maybe we could do our own incubator, where we take people in on a smaller level and work with them. If somebody said, hey, I have $150 to spend, I could tell you where to spend the 150, depending on what you want to do, because we've gone through these different levels of it and stuff. Because I know people like the cookie lady from the Carbondale Technology Transfer Center. She's not interested in having points of sale or being in grocery stores. She only wants to work the circuit, where she's selling to people, because there you keep 100% of your profits. There's no one else involved. You're not paying a distributor. You're not paying a manufacturer. There's just yourself, So it depends what you want to do, where you want to take it. So that's kind of the future, since we didn't really want to start a food business per se, but we knew we wanted to be able to be in a way to not only help people, but kind of tie in some of those other things you mentioned earlier, give somebody something to identify with outside of just coming from a place that's associated mostly with being unhappy or depression. Right. It's like, how many times has the valley gone up and down, like the coal, everything left, manufacturing and stuff. And, you see these people talking about, for the fourth time in a row, Pennsylvania is the most unhappy place in the world to live. It's like, well, maybe if we could give somebody something to identify with, so those are some of the more lofty kind of things that that we we would like to be able to do for people in the area, the community, all of this, because we live here too, like I live here.
No, I mean, I love the story behind it. I didn't know all this, obviously. And I just think it's really great that, how it all happened, and also, what you want to do, moving forward, especially when I say giving back. But, just realizing that you guys live here, and that's what I've always said too. It's like, I don't plan on leaving here ever, because I don't plan on it. I shouldn't say I'll never will. I don't plan on it. My family's here, all that kind of stuff, right? And it's comfortable, right?
Sure.
So why not make it the best you can while you're here, right?
Yeah, right. Why not? And it really is a great place. There's a lot of things that it has going for it. Even the proximity to places. We're 2 hours away from Philadelphia and New York City. You know what I mean? That's not like being 2 hours outside of Duluth, Minnesota. Duluth is probably a great place, but like New York City is New York City, regardless of what people might say and how the tempo of it is now is different. It's,
do you think it bounces back?
Yeah, definitely. Not in a capacity. You have to think about time, man. It's such a small 1 year, 2 years. It's so small, in 10 years, man, we're of the age when 9/11 happened. Did anybody think that it would, there were people saying, this is it. New York is done. People are moving out in the thousands after it happened, It's never going to rebound. And it was a different time, but it's just about people and how they perceive something. And, a number of years went by, certain things were normalized, it changed in certain ways, like, the policies and politics and everything else aside. I'm talking about the city itself. It's a different event, but it's already 20 years ago. So I think in 20 years, New York is the same or different. I don't want to say better, because I'm not a perpetual growth guy. I know that's how we kind of view things, or how things are viewed through a lens in our country, is of a constant growth. Like we talk about things that are in constant, like like the growth has to be constant for it to be sustainable or for it to be worthy. I was talking about an expansion of something. So, do I think it will be the same or better or worse? But I know people will return there, for what brought them there originally,
Yeah.
Whether it's small stores and restaurants and things like that, it's like, I work in commercial, I work for a commercial flooring company, and there were there was almost more new home construction this year
Mm-hmm.
than there was last year. Actually, there was more new home construction in this area anyway, so it's because the whole world exists around the valley. So there was more new home construction this year going on than there was last year. And for the same people who were able to open up a restaurant in New York before, maybe they lost some restaurants or whatever, there's like another guy that could open up a restaurant tomorrow, when it's ready or when it's the time, because he's leveraged in a way or he's got enough money or, there's going to be a lot of businesses that go out of business too. And there'll be another guy waiting to open up another business, in that thing, because it's the same people building houses, man. They weren't affected in a way that the guy washing the dishes was. But Jimmy from up at Jack's Draft House, one of the great restaurants that we're at, he's right. And he says that no one cares about the dishwasher. They want to, everybody's going to say, oh, local, this and that. But nobody really cares about that guy. He's the guy that was affected by the restaurant closing. Not that the owner isn't too, because there's a lot of owners that people have their entire life savings tied up into a place and probably going to go out of business, and it's, but there's nothing that you spend money on as an enterprise that's guaranteed. I mean, if you go into any business has the potential to lose money. That's including owning rental properties. It's including operating, owning, and running a restaurant. It's not guaranteed. There's no guarantee anywhere out there that you're going to do well or that success is guaranteed or should be. And certain things happen outside of your control all the time that could take that away, like a fire, some act of God or, a random act of something that could take it away the same way this did, so it's unfortunate, but yeah, I don't know. I think it will. I think New York will come back.
Yeah, it's interesting to think about. It really is. I think people just realize that I don't know. I mean, for me, I think it really made people look at how they lived, whether, you're, in a city where it's crowded, you're on top of each other. And it just kind of gave you like this, like, they're spending a fortune in rent, but like back then, even, during 9/11, you were going to office buildings for work. Like that was like how you did business. But now, 20 years later, you can do so much remotely.
Yeah.
You don't need that office building to get your work done. So it's like, not just living, but also, the business aspect of things too. So I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I know that really changed. And that's going to change as far as people being, in that corporate center, having that kind of lifestyle. Could they do some of that remote now? And yeah, I mean, a certain percentage of them will, you could already see companies. I think Microsoft or Google or one of the really big tech companies basically said like it's going to be on a permanent flex schedule, or some of them have said certain positions will never have to go back into an office. They could do 100% remote work. But I know Erin, she, in a creative environment, it's hard to do remote, That's why some of the, some industries like that could never be outsourced, like design. You can't outsource design. Doesn't matter if you could do it for cheap or somewhere else, because you need to be in the room with the person eventually. Like, yeah, okay, you can get a little cutesy logo made off some mope on the internet, but like if you're going to go through a design process with somebody, you need to be able to talk to that person in real time. Doesn't need to necessarily see them in the same room, but if you're working with a group of people on a large brand, you need some coordination that goes that if you're laying out multiple slides or multiple designs or whatever, like you need a large space to physically put those things out.
Yeah.
So there are some industries that, aren't able to work as well, I think, like that. So yeah, I mean, we'll see.
Yeah, time will tell. I think people too, in general, like they learn that like anything could change in an instant now. And they kind of looked at how they live and what they're spending their money on and all that kind of stuff, so that they're prepared, if this ever, God forbid, happens again.
Well, that's hopefully they could, hopefully companies too realize that, out of, I think there were a lot of things too in the work culture that surrounded cities too, the work hustle, the side hustle, the hustle side business. Everybody's got a side business. Everybody's hustling. It's a toxic work environment, culture where you have people wanting to grind. They talk about the grind, working so much, always being available on the weekends and stuff. And so hopefully out of this too, like people realize that time that they were spending with their families, that Corey talks about it. He said he's got kids that are 15, 16 now. He's like, man, I would never have this time to be playing board games with my kids. Like they want to be outside now, like these, he will never get that time, So hopefully the whole work culture changes too, where people start working less.
Yeah.
More time for family, more time for leisure, So does that draw people into centers because there's more time for arts and entertainment? You know what I mean? Does certain things shift as far as that goes, in cities anyway,
Yeah.
Always look for us, we'll still be eating good pizza, worrying about Susquehanna River.
Yeah. Yeah. How about it? It was close. A close one.
Crazy. I live in 40 for it. So, it's
you're, it's always a concern. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. I'm glad that they were wrong on that because people were, of all things, 2020 to end out with,
Well, you said you're in Duryea, right? Depending on what part of Duryea, they get some flooding in the lowlands.
Yeah, if I got flooded where I am, I would be all in big trouble. But yeah, since those, since the dike was put in after 72, that backs up, and then the poor people on Main Street Duryea kind of get So yeah, that's what happens.
I guess, man. It's sad by the river. That's what people did.
It's unfortunate. But I don't want to take any more of your time unless there's more that you want to let people know about.
Got some musical instruments, but I know you're mostly a music-related podcast. So I made sure to put everything front and center. I literally pulled almost every instrument I own down into this room. And just in like the off chance that you're like, oh, Amos, you want to play something on your guitar for us? It's like,
well, I didn't know that you played. Next time we'll do that. No, thank you for doing this because you said this. My focus was to my show on the radio got put on hiatus. I
heard about that, and it was crazy.
Yeah, so I still wanted to have a connection to the local music scene. And this is the best way I could figure out how, so I definitely wanted to, be a platform for artists to kind of, talk about their music and all that kind of stuff. But I also wanted to branch out and talk to, business owners and guys like you that are doing really cool things and kind of give a platform for you to tell your story, because I think it's a great story. I think it, people who hear about it would, even get on board more so than they were already in general, or maybe they learn something new and
sure,
it helps out the overall cause. Cause again, I want this area to move forward and succeed and be a place that people are proud to call home. So, that gets done with, people like you. So thank you for what you guys do.
Yeah, thanks, man.
And I hope that I can contribute, in some kind of capacity to.
No, I think what you're doing, I think is right. Because it's if we live here together, it's a communal effort. In the 90s when restaurants failed around here, they failed because they weren't working together. They all talked about each other's place.
Yeah.
Everybody put each other down, and then they all failed together, but like all the chefs that I know around here now, the younger guys, like, mid 40s and younger, maybe there's a couple of guys in their 50s, like in on it too, or whatever. But, they support each other. They go to one another's places. They promote each other's businesses, and they all seem to be doing well together, So hopefully they could bounce back. So it does take a whole group of guys, including people like yourself, to be able to give people like me and other people who normally wouldn't have an access to, people who are listening to you, to hear what I'm saying. So, thank you.
Cool, man. Well, thank you again. Looking forward to 2021 and that spicy ketchup.
Yep. We'll have to get you a bottle then. Once we come out, with the spicy, we'll send you a 2-pack so you can get the full experience,
Sweet. Yeah. And then at that point, maybe we can jump on again. We'll see where we're at, and then you can play it too.
Sure, man. That'd be great. That'd be awesome.
Awesome, man. Well, thanks so much. Thanks for doing this, and Happy New Year.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Happy New Year to you too.
Here's to a better 2021, right?
That's it.
All right, man. Thanks.
All right. See you later.
See ya.